Hey, what's going on, guys? It's your boy Scare Soldier bringing you another Borderlands 3 video, and in today's video we got us a clone drone setup. So this is the Zane build Mayhem 10 version, and you guys see the Zane in the background. That is the skin you guys get once you complete all the challenges of the cartel, if you guys want to know. But without further ado, let's get into the build. So essentially you're going to want to have some of the weapons with the anointment either Sentinel active, gain 100% damage, or anointments such as while action skill is active, weapon damage is increased by 200%. And the other one you can play around with is also the gain 300% increased weapon damage. So you can use quite a bit of different variations of guns and also anointments. So it's pretty awesome because it's versatile. The shield that I'm using is the Frozen Heart for when I'm mobbing. I love this shield right now because it's such a good way to control the crowd. If there's a lot of enemies around you and your shield gets depleted, it stops everything in time. I'm going to show you guys a video exactly what I'm talking about right about here. So we have the Frozen Heart shield, and those who don't know how this shield works, I'm going to demonstrate exactly just how you can use this shield. Now, for those who also didn't know, whatever shield you have equipped, your clone will also have equipped. So that means that we will have the chance to get double the effect of this shield, which is fantastic. And we're going to get some skags all around us, and just to show you guys what this is all about. So here we go. We got some skags. Call it the clone. Let them break his shield, and you're going to see the magic happen. Boom, everything's frozen around him. See how easy that is, guys? And then you have the icebreaker, so you do 40% more damage to all frozen enemies. And I want to see and show you guys also just how many enemies we can freeze at once. We are going to go find some more skags, and we are going to lure them all together, and we're going to see just how many we can actually freeze with this shield. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to put our clone out. Actually, they just broke my shield, so all these enemies around us were frozen. And as you guys see, it has a pretty decent radius. Actually, let's take a little bit of a closer look. So again, look at that. It's pretty big radius over there. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, and about 5 frozen skags. Pretty awesome stuff. Let's do it one more time. And I'm going to show you what I like to do too, is I like to get a whole bunch of enemies together, get them frozen, and then I like to shoot my recursion at all those enemies, and you're going to see it just wipes out everything. So you get all a clump of enemies together, you get them all frozen, you pop out the recursion, and it just bounces off all 6 of them and absolutely kills every enemy in sight. So this is a really nice way to crowd control on Mayhem 10. Boom, right again, you guys see how insane this is. We'll call that our clone. And he literally froze 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And look at the radius, guys. It freezes a ton of enemies at a pretty good range. So definitely give this shield a try, guys. Pretty insane. Right about here. And now with that out the way, guys, you can see how insane the Frozen Heart shield is. And yes, it doesn't offer an immense amount of damage like something like the old God would, but again, it's a very nice way to slow down enemies and deal a lot of damage with your icebreaker, which is super cool. The grenade we are using is the Hex. I like this grenade a lot because it spawns tons of grenades. Not only does it do that, but it can also have a chance to freeze enemies because this one is cryo, which is also good for our icebreaker. And not only that, but we have ASC on this. You can also, for the shield, by the way, if you guys do have a Frozen Heart, the anointment on the action skill start, activate any effect. That's really cool too, but eventually you don't really need it too much. That's why I like ASC to get some more damage out of this, but that's pretty much it. And the same thing with the grenade. You guys can have ASC anointments on this, and this is going to give you a lot of damage because our clone is going to die, which we don't care, because if he's dead, it means we have an ASC active, and we will be getting extra elemental damage, and you can choose whatever elements you want, which is awesome. So if you're fighting things like, let's say, Wotan, you would put ASC corrosive. You can play around with this, and this adds on to the already cryo damage that you're doing with your Sentinel, which is absolutely insane. So you're already doing 100% cryo damage, and then you're doing whatever other damage you want to add to that. So that's about 200% extra elemental damage, and that does a hell of a lot of damage with this setup. I think it's some of the most damage you could do with Zane in the game, to be honest with you. Now, of course, the class mod pretty standard is the Scene Dead right over here. And then we have the icebreaker. This one's great for mobbing, and of course we will be freezing enemies really efficiently with a combination of the Frozen Heart, our clone possessing the Frozen Heart as well, and then having MRV hex grenades around the battlefield will make the icebreaker perfect choice. And also a recommendation of mine, if you guys want to do some insane kills like some of the first clips that you guys saw of the video, a snowdrift is fantastic, and this one offers the most damage possible with Zane. So you slide and shoot while you're sliding, of course, and you're going to deal a great amount of damage since Zane is based off of speed, and the more speed he does, the more damage he does. So that's pretty much that. Now for the skill tree real quick, you guys are going to want to spec quite heavily into the Hitman tree. Again, this is not a surprise. You're going to get a lot of DPS out of this tree right here. We have the C in red, so right when we get into action against bosses, we can have all our kill skills active. We don't have to sit there, start shooting him, and then finally we get all our kill skills. We can just do maximum damage right when we get into the battle. Good misfortune, keep our action skills active, or at least our sentinel for the most part. And then the rest is self-explanatory. And by this level at Mayhem 10, since this is a Mayhem 10 level, you only need 1 point into salvation. All the Mayhem 10 weapons now do so much damage that 1 point literally feels like 5 points in salvation. So all you need is 1 point here. And then of course playing dirty is going to give you a whole bunch of damage, violent violence, DPS, all that good stuff. The augments that we're using on our Sentinel is Bad Dose, one of the best augments you can have on your Sentinel. And we also have Static Field because we will be using things like Confident Competence, which is dependent on having a full shield. And also it's nice because we can refill our Frozen Heart and do the effect again and again and again. So let's get into the other trees. We got the double agent tree here, and basically what we wanted in this tree, and yes, we are using the clone, but I'll tell you guys a couple things. So you guys can go ahead and copy the tree, pause the video whenever you guys want. But quickly, you see we are not expecting to double barrel, trickle light, boom enhance, any of those things, and you might be looking at me like, you have the clone, why wouldn't you spec in a double barrel? Like, aren't those kind of things obvious? Now, after trying, believe me guys, I went all the way down the tree. I used a lot of the points for my clone, but at the end of the day in Mayhem 10, no matter what gun you put on your clone, he doesn't do an enough amount of damage. Like by the time he finally kills an enemy, you're already done the takedown, and it takes too much time. I put the yellow cake on him, I put the OPQ system on him, and he does not do enough damage on Mayhem 10. So it's honestly a wasted point, the double barrel, until maybe they get guns to really do a lot of damage with your clone. But for the most part, he doesn't do too much damage on Mayhem 10, so I didn't waste a point there. Trickle Light is not really worth it at this point because we mostly want our clone to actually die. So the fact that we're either killing him off ourselves using the double bagger augment over here, and the fact that he dies pretty quickly once he's on the battlefield in Mayhem 10 means that Trickle Light will not really do us too much because our clone has limited time on the playing grounds, so we did not spec into that. And then Boom Enhance, like I said, either with Boom Enhance or not, at the end of the day the clone dies quite quickly in Mayhem 10 because the enemies are quite strong. So it's kind of a waste at this point to keep him alive much longer than he needs to. And like I said, I don't care, I want him to die so my ASC action skill and anointments can always be active during battle so I can do maximum damage on the field. And then of course things like Fractal Frags is great because he spams grenades. You'll have grenades all over the field all the time because as soon as you spawn him in, he throws a free grenade, and then when he dies he throws another one, so he just keeps throwing grenades, which is crazy. And then obviously the standard things like borrow time, a little bit of points in here. Like I said, I don't care if my my clone doesn't stay active very long, but my Sentinel already has a nasty duration. The duration's already 24 seconds, so it lasts forever basically. You never really need borrowed time when it comes to a Sentinel. Has a good duration. Finally, the tree over here, we put ready for action again so we can help our Frozen Heart Shield get back to full recharge. We Brain Freeze to freeze enemies even more efficiently, and then Confident Competence for some extra gun damage potential. If our shield becomes full, we get a little bit of extra damage, which is nice. We can, if we want, also use the all-rounder. We have all the best augments available to us, so if you guys ever have too much trouble just using these two for when you're doing the bridge or you have a lot of ads to deal with, then definitely you can still throw on the barrier, put the all-rounder on, and you guys can get by. So at least you have that option available to you. But like I said, you guys see the gameplay for itself. All I needed was the Sentinel and the clone, and I was good to go. Now for the Guardian rank, I have 492 with my boy Zane over here. Pretty nice stuff for those who want to know. And I will show you guys the modifiers before I get to Wotan, so don't worry about that. But the modifiers I was running just because I was playing around and farming Joey Ultraviolet. I was using these ones here: Speed Demon, Mom Mentality, Chain Gang, and Dazed and Infused. So that's it guys, let's get into some gameplay. I'll see you guys over there. Alright, now the play style of this build. Now, this is obviously paying Zane, and for those who are not familiar with this build, this is all about the clone and drone. And normally we would like to use guns on our clone and deal damage with our clone as well, but unfortunately on Mayhem 10 the enemies just have so much health that the clone doesn't do that much damage. And I will not say that he doesn't do any damage, he just doesn't do enough damage to where it actually makes a huge difference on the map, even with some of the best guns in the game such as the lob, the scourge. Any of these kind of weapons don't do nearly as much damage towards the enemies. So what you're going to want to do is use your clone more as a utility more than ever. Anyways, you're going to use them to proc your ASC action skill anointments quite often, and that's why we didn't care to put points in boom enhanced or anything like that, because we don't care if he dies. His cooldown rate, as you guys see, is so short that we can call him in, have 10 seconds of 100% extra elemental damage, and then when it basically is up and we have no more time to do that damage, our clone's already ready and available. The clone also throws out grenades, so whether he's on the battlefield or not, he's guaranteed to throw at least 2 grenades per life, which is way more than the sentinel does, and these two together will be getting you a lot of grenades out on the battlefield. So you'll be freezing enemies via your hex grenades, also with your frozen heart shield, and again you have sentinel cryo anointment on your weapons, or you can use any other ones, but you have the icebreaker, you have brain freeze, so your efficiency with cryo is going to be pretty insane. You'll be freezing everything, dealing most damage possible. And then when you go see bosses like Wotan, Grave Warlord, Troy, you can pull out the snowdrift and absolutely fry those enemies by slide shooting. That's probably the most you're going to do. As you see right there, we absolutely melted the Kraken on Mayhem 10. Now we're going to fast forward over to the bridge, and this is where again there's tons of enemies. We did not even disable the event of the cartels, and that you guys, if you haven't played the bridge with that event on, it adds so many more enemies. And keep in mind, we are not using a barrier and we are surviving quite well. There are a few times once in a while we do go down if we're not shooting enemies, but as long as we're shooting, there is absolutely no reason why we shouldn't be alive. And you guys see the same principles applied like the Skag example I showed you. We're piling up enemies together, using our shield to freeze them, and then we pull out the recursion and absolutely kill all the enemies on site. And this is the best way to get through this real quick. You can do the same thing with guns like the redistributors and things like that. They work just fine. And the thing I like about the clone dying so fast is that I don't have to spam double banger too often. The enemies can kill them off quite fast, and then I can just go ahead and do what I have to do. So the recursion wasn't working for me, by the way, that well, and then once I started to use ASC anointments, it started feeling like it was back to normal and started absolutely one-shotting a whole bunch of enemies nearby, which was fantastic. So definitely get yourself a recursion. Now, the other guns that I would recommend, of course, for this setup is Cutsman's for Wotan. In any kind of form, like corrosive, shock, of course, are fantastic. As long as you have ASC anointments that give you either radiation or cryo, you will also do good damage to his armor and shields. So, guys, you can get that. And other things I would say, if you want, you can have the piss grenade during that battle, because the hex won't really do anything to Wotan, honestly, and you can take off your icebreakers because that's not really going to help you during a Wotan fight. But with that being said, guys, that's pretty much it for the actual build and the playstyle. I hope you guys definitely give this a try. You're going to see that we're going to go ahead and take on Wotan in a second after we kill these heavyweights, and you see the damage is literally insane with this build. So let's get right into it. So you see here we're using the Cutsman like I suggested you guys use. This is obviously a standard weapon, not a new weapon, but definitely a very good weapon to use versus Wotan. And the actual highlight is more so at the end of this footage with the upper half, and you're gonna see just how insane you can use the recursion in a nice manner. So we're just going ahead killing this last Kraken. The Krakens drop a whole bunch of loot, so we wanted to try to get that new redistributor with the radiation anointment on it, but nonetheless very easy. So you're gonna see we have the recursion, we're ending our action skill, and right there absolutely one shot the upper half. Pretty insane stuff, guys. So if you guys like the video, smash that like button for your boy. Definitely subscribe to the channel for more content. I'm gonna see you in the next video. It's your boy Skid Soldier signing out. Peace.